Good evening, everyone. I'm sure you're wondering why in the world is Baker Rosen giving a chapel talk? And if I were in your shoes, I would probably be thinking the exact same thing. And that is exactly what I'm going to talk about. How our assumptions about other people, and also about how our assumptions about ourselves shape who we are, and who and we shape who we and they become. In the spring of 2020, I saw Millbrook for the first time. It was a beautiful day, and Miss Grover gave us a tour. As soon as we got back in the car, my parents turned to me and said, "Don't you just love it?" "No," I responded. "I hate it. I'm not a boarding school kid. Why don't you understand that?" But my parents had other plans for me. In the following September, they dropped me off at Case Hall. This never boarding school kid reluctantly became a boarding school kid. I would love to tell you about how my immediate positive transformation, that within the first few days I found my people and became a golden child and a star student, but that is certainly not the case. My first few months at Millbrook were rough, to say the least. My belief that boarding school was not for me and that I was not right for boarding school impacted my early days at Millbrook. I found myself in and out of the dean's office, getting in all sorts of trouble for being in the wrong places and doing the wrong things. I also found myself in the academic dean's office a lot and was placed on academic probation my first semester here. Having multiple effort scores of 4 certainly did not help. My reputation was pretty terrible, and I'm not saying it's perfect now. I continue to make mistakes, but I've worked really hard at changing it. And Millbrook has given me the opportunity to become a completely different person from the one who arrived on campus 3 years ago. Looking back, I've learned 2 things. Number 1, that having doubts about oneself can make them come true. I did not think I could or would be successful here, and it became my reality. Letting go of limiting assumptions about myself has enabled me to become a different person. But I did not do it alone. The second thing that I've learned is that having people who believe in your ability to change and succeed is also essential for success. In my case, it was my advisor, Mr. Smith, who refused to allow me to get stuck with a reputation of being a problem kid. From the get-go, he saw possibilities in me that I didn't dare to see for myself. Mr. Morrissey, Mr. Harlan, and Miss McKenzie also had faith in me, despite my missteps and shortcomings. It's amazing what a difference that can make to a teenager who's full of doubt and unsure of where he belongs. That's the thing about potential. It's a two-way street. You have to believe in yourself, but you also need to have people believe in you. When people believe in you, then you start believing in yourself. Let me tell you about a study. In the early 1960s, a group of psychology students were asked to assist with an experiment involving lab rats. Half of the students were told that they would be taking care of super smart rats who had been bred for brightness in running a maze. This group of rats were labeled maze bright. The other students were informed that their rats were not so smart and had trouble navigating their way around a maze. This group of rats were labeled as maze dull. In reality, all the rats had been randomly assigned to the students. There was no difference between the maze dull and the maze bright rat, other than the labels. But guess what? Those maze bright rats consistently outperformed the maze dull ones. They navigated the mazes faster. They found the cheese more efficiently. They were more animated and energetic. Those maze dull rats were low energy. Some wouldn't even budge from the starting position when placed in the maze. These rats often made dumb mistakes. If these rats were Millbrook students, they definitely would have found themselves in the dean's office, or maybe worse. What could possibly account for these different results? As I said, technically there was no difference between the rats other than designating them as bright or dull. The key difference was the students' expectations and behaviors towards the rats. Those who thought they were taking care of bright rats treated them with extra care. They spent more time with them. They were more friendly and enthusiastic with them. They were more generous in their reports about their behavior. The students who took care of the maze doll rats did the opposite. They expected their rats to be slow-moving and unremarkable, and did not engage or take an interest in them. The students' assumptions about the maze doll rats' lack of potential became a reality. What I'm trying to say is that expectation matters. When we label ourselves or someone else as problematic or lacking potential, your expectations also become a reality. I will be forever grateful to Millbrook and to Mr. Morrissey, Mr. Harlan, and Ms. McKenzie, and especially Mr. Smith, for not treating me like a maze doll rat. Moving forward, I hope to offer the same grace and generosity to everyone I meet. I have learned that believing in a person's good intentions, having positive expectations, giving people the benefit of the doubt, not jumping to conclusions, and not making assumptions about someone based on limited information can be transformative. When we look for the good in others, we usually find it. People change. I know that because I have changed. And it is only because of people who believed in my ability to change. As a philosopher once said, treat people as if they were what they ought to be, and you help them become what they are capable of being. I have no doubt that there is a maze-bright rat inside each and every one of us. The challenge is to find it. Thank you.